Okay. All right, welcome everybody. It's 7:04. It's the Conservation Commission meeting. We have a quorum tonight, and we have two more commissioners that should be joining us soon. We're waiting for Tim and John. But in the meantime, we can start. So our last meeting, I'll just say hello, and I hope everybody it's our first meeting of the year. I hope everybody's well and healthy and happy, and we don't have any COVIDs. Yeah, good. Well, it's good to see everybody. So we have our last meeting was December 1st. And so Barbara shared with us the minutes of that meeting. So does anybody have any comments on the minutes, comments or corrections from the December 1st meeting? No? All looks good. Okay, do I have a motion from someone to approve the minutes?
It has to be someone who was there.
Yeah.
Okay, so who was there? So a motion from
Pam, John, and Rich cannot move or approve.
So Sarah or Matt
Sarah or Matt.
can approve.
I would like to approve.
Okay, and do I have a second?
I guess I'll second.
Okay, well, all right. That's great. And there's John. Hi, John.
Hi, John.
So we can start. So the first item on the agenda is Vicky coming to reinstate both Matt and Pam. She won't be able to come on for about 45 minutes. So we'll be well into close to the end of the meeting by then, maybe. And she'll get on and then swear everybody in then. So it seems like, their terms ended very quickly, and they did, because both of them had 2-year terms that were filled last year when they joined. So some people have 2-year terms, some have 4-year terms. It was just a random raffle of term time limits on different people. So it's just a random thing. So we'll see if their next, what the next terms will be. I don't know if they'll be 2-year again, but it doesn't matter. We're just happy to have them stay on with us again. So we can go over right now. This is a good time to go over the draft goals for 2022 and the successes for 2021. And so I'm going to share my screen because, as I mentioned to everybody, I had a budget meeting on Monday, and part of the budget meeting is presenting this information. So we've moved things around a little bit. So I'm just going to kind of go over here successes and accomplishments, what we really did last year. It was kind of a weird year because we never met in person. But a few of us really went out there and did roll out the natural resource inventory to the Parks Commission. So thank you to Sarah and Richard, I think you went to, along with Jim Norgren, to roll it out to the Parks Commission. And then Sarah and I did a Zoom and rolled it out to Public Works and Engineering. Made copies for that department, so everybody there has a copy of the natural resource inventory. We did a Zoom presentation, a Zoom on pollinator pathway, and in person had a booth at Wakeman's Nursery, and Pam and I went there, and to the farmers market. We also had a booth there, so that was just rolling that out a little bit. We worked successfully with inland wetlands on a couple of advisory letters, and while I'm on this subject, I will say that although it hasn't been kind of drafted by inland wetlands yet, there was a walk on the property yesterday, and the developer has agreed to not take any of the trees down. So I was very happy to hear that. And he's going to plant some cranberries or something like that, cranberry viburnum, along where he's removing the driveway, for those of you that know the plan. So I was very happy to hear that. It was kind of decided earlier in the month. So that was good. Those trees are staying there in the wetland, holding the soil where they belong.
Why did, that's great news. Why did he ultimately choose not to remove them?
The meeting that, the inland wetland meeting had some presentations by, I brought in an engineer who is also a tree expert. And he basically said that the trees were healthy, even though they may have not looked healthy to the naked eye. They were healthy, they were providing a service, and there may be substantial changes to the landscape in that regulated area. If they were removed, they would have to be replaced by double the amount of trees, etc. So I think he just figured that once they took the driveway out, they're just going to keep them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it was just, it worked out. It's cheaper for them and it's better for the landscape. So, so the draft of the advisory letters, Pinewood Lake. So the only thing I know about that Pinewood Lake project that we kind of advised on was that the woman that owned it sold it. I guess she bought the house for $700,000 and sold it for $900,000. The house right on the lake. So she made $200,000 and got out of town. So, what's happened there is, to be seen, to be continued with whoever the new owner is. We filled our 4 spots on the Conservation Commission, achieved silver certification for Sustainable Connecticut, woohoo, which is a really big deal, and it's a great thing. And if you notice, I have this highlighted area. When I was going over the budget with Maria, who's on finance, and with Vicky, it was suggested that, we still have 6 months left in this 2021 2022 budget year, to actually work on this survey that we've talked about. And it seems like a really good fit for us to just, if we can concentrate on a public survey on these issues, we'll draft it and send it out, and have that survey inform what we do for the next fiscal year. Because as you know, I asked for more money in the budget to cover public relations and outreach, whether it's in the form of brochures or info cards or signs, or whatever we decide to do with it. It was just a better flow for us to just, kind of get the work teed up for what we want to launch as a result of the survey. So that's why I kind of shifted those things around. I moved the survey back over here.
And is that, I just want to, that's June 2022, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So June 31st, 2022 is the
Okay, I just want to make sure there wasn't a survey last year that I wasn't aware of.
No.
It's going to
Yeah,
2021.
completed
so,
by
okay.
June 2022. Yes, that was
Okay.
Sorry about that. This is why it's good to have you around, Sarah, because you can.
Well, I thought maybe there was another survey.
Yeah, no, completed by June 2022.
Okay.
So that's what that's our goal. So, and Pam, you can jump in here if you'd like, for these next two goals and objectives that we put on here. We've talked last year about, a tree replacement plan in some way, shape, or form, a project to replace our street trees. And we've had different levels of input from people on this. But we had a meeting last week with the Sustainable CT team, presented to Vicky some ideas, the successes and the goals for Sustainable CT. And the tree that, tree replacement plan, and the next one, which is a community garden expansion, were two things that Vicky pointed out that she had very strong interest in hearing more about. So some of us on the Sustainable CT team were like, yes, we just, it just hit right that of a lot of the things that we presented, she seemed to really be interested in going further and learning more about those two things. And plus they'll be fun ones to do. So the next one, so Pam, did you have anything else you wanted to add in terms of feedback for
Well,
that?
why don't we let you finish this and then we'll go to the next bullet and I'll kind of dovetail into the Sustainable Trumbull team and our goals, because it's kind of a good segue.
Okay, excellent. So down here, the draft model riparian corridor and watershed protection regulations, we kind of sat through that talk about the mandate, the PA 2129. And I do have to say that was referred to by one of the inland wetlands commissioners in the last meeting as a reason why these trees should also be protected, because we as a town are going to have to begin to follow new guidelines to protect our watershed. So I was just delighted that one of our inland wetland commissioners brought up that new law.
Mel, on that topic, and maybe you're going to get to this later, but since we have to follow the rules, is there an opportunity with either inland wetlands or planning and zoning to include additional guidance in their process, their checklists, whatever?
Yes, you mean more detailed in terms of the
new regulation, more detailed as they are considering applications so that they can have an easy reference to what they need to be following. If it's different, more assuming it's more strict than what they currently have.
What we have now, yes. So for example, Richard brought up, can we add things like, prohibiting the clear cutting of lots, pre-application, steep slope ordinance. All of those things can be details that we add into the new regulations. There are, I think, 5 or 6 sample regulations that are in the back of the report. And I actually printed them out just to look at them on paper.
No, and I think they're great. My question is really more, I think perhaps a logistical one, which is, how do we go about actually executing that?
Yeah, I think for inland wetlands, since they're a regulatory body, by law, they have to follow, the state regs. So theoretically, they'll have to incorporate PA 21-29. There's some gray areas. I mean, do people enforce on every situation all the regs? The answer is no.
Of course.
But where the zoning comes in are things that, could reiterate these, or maybe we could put things that aren't in the current state regs, as long as they're doable and, reasonably doable, by folks like steep slope. But
even what you're saying about how inland wetlands has to include them, my question is perhaps, do we just assume that they're going to do that? Or is it our, if not responsibility, at least would it be helpful for us to help them versus hope that they're doing it?
It actually is a real, that brings up a good point, is that if something's not in a wetland zone, they don't even see the property.
Yeah.
So then zoning's the last one.
Zoning.
Yeah. So in some ways, the zoning regs are, could include things that would help protect the environment that inland wetlands wouldn't even see.
Well,
the zoning is the last.
If the law requires it.
Yeah.
Right. And this is specifically focused on zoning, not inland wetlands.
Okay.
So this is specifically focused on zoning. Should those applications like Moorfield or Daniels Farm Road, which totally skip the inland wetlands process, entirely and just went right to
Yeah.
zoning. This protection, this riparian corridor watershed protection is for zoning very specifically.
So then-
Because
so
of that reason.
And do we assume that planning and zoning is going to read the law and incorporate the restrictions into their processes? Or is it our responsibility, is our place to help them?
I think it's our place to help them. I don't think they will, they'll do this until they, someone, it's not their bailiwick. So if we can create and insert some regulations like, this one into their zoning regs, and then also have the planning and zoning, any application that goes before them also be copied to us, because right now we're not included in that. So that's one way we can see the applications that are coming up and catch them in advance, just to support these regulations to zoning. And the other thing is, especially when we're thinking about the trees, if we're going to ask for always a tree inventory on the property, a planting plan, all those things should be presented right up front when a developer comes to the office, the the zoning office, and applies for a permit. That should be part of that they're going to ask for in the regulations, a tree survey for what's on the property and what's going to be removed, and a planning landscape plan. And those have to be reviewed by conservation. So that's how we can kind of watch that they're not, over clear cutting, and also kind of put our 2 cents in, which is like the next ordinance, which is getting native trees, shrubs, and plants as into the landscape plans. Because right now we don't see them. It goes, the tree warden looks at them. So yeah, we're going to have to physically insert whatever regulations that we're going to have to work on it with them. And I think working with some of the commissioners would be a good experience. Sitting down with them, and because this is a mandate, this is a state mandate that the towns are going to have to begin to integrate these things into zoning regulations. So we're not going to wait for this process that the zoning regs are open for changes now. We can't wait. It's been stalled for over a year now. So we have to get these things in. I don't think there's too much land left to do big developments on, but I didn't think that 5 years ago. And now look we've got these massive apartment houses and down out by the mall, all those things going up. So yeah, Sarah, I don't know if that answered your question, but I think, yes, we're going to physically have to insert ourselves into the process, insert this regulation that we draft into the process. So we can, look at this together. The model native plant ordinance has, for the most part, been drafted already for us. It's been passed in Newtown. I think Old Lyme just passed one. It's kind of a very simple thing. I think Monroe is now working on theirs. And then Monroe drafted a model riparian corridor, which I think we can add to. So a lot of the blueprint's been done already. So these will be kind of simple things for us to do, maybe not so much fun as the 2 previous ones or the 3 previous ones. But part of our advisory role comes to bear with these helping to draft these ordinances. So that's kind of what I have set. So if last time we met, we kind of threw out if anyone had any other things that they wanted to, these are kind of general categories, but any other things that people thought about for the upcoming year. I know, Richard, you mentioned, the project that you started working on with the QR codes with, that's with the Historical Society, right?
Yeah, and also Mary Isaac. It's kind of a sustainable thing. But it kind of, it's simply a way that we can provide information, to the public. You just simply scan to have one. Maybe some of you guys saw these QR codes I
Yeah,
emailed out, but you could scan them with your phone. And these are real codes that take, real content. But I think the advantage, we could use this in a few locations where there was some physical spot on the ground that we could put a QR code to educate people on. For example, some of the parks, Old Mine is one location. Where there's erosion on the rails trail, this may be a gray zone the attorneys might not want us to publicize, but you have a QR code there with a simple label saying example of erosion. It would scan it. It would take you to a document on, control erosion, one way, don't clear, trees and vegetation on a steep slope, things like that.
So the content of it is something we can work on as we do certain projects.
Yeah.
Just kind of include that in if we're going to do some signage. I don't see us, going forward with that. So,
I'm sorry, I have a quick question. This is actually maybe a question for Bill Chin, which is, can we tell from the website, or can you tell from, I don't know, Google Analytics or however you measure behavior on your website, whether the visit came from the QR code or whether the visit came from just somebody coming to the website? The question I'm asking is, as Richard's putting these things up with the Historical Society, and as we think about perhaps putting them up in other places, measuring the impact, right? So can we count how many people are using them, basically?
There are some programs out there that design the QR code. I'm not sure which one Richard's using, but they have analytics built in that say, that tag, this was tagged by an Android phone or iPhone X amount of times or whatever. So it's generally done on the QR code.
It's done through the program versus from the website. Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I use QR Monkey, I think it's called, because it was free and really simple. You put the URL, you can put in, I copied the town logo, if you can see it, that circle. I copied the town logo from our website to insert it. So generate this, if you have the URL, this would take about a minute to generate. And then it generates a graphic code, which you can then copy and paste into like anything. I have a 1-inch label maker that I pasted it there, and it's still readable, although pretty small. There may be a gray zone, but like, for example, at our lakes, if we wanted to get a message across about riparian, issues, or how do you manage your yard if you're along a river or a lake, you could theoretically, in a public place that's visible, have a QR code, a very small label, and then scan me, and then it would take them there, maybe to some of the documents, we mailed out, several years ago, mailed something like that. So it's one way, as long as people see it and use it, it's a way to educate people on something at a spot on the ground.
Well, and that's why I'm asking, is I'm asking about the data, because I just want to make sure that that people are engaged with them, if we're going to be spending our limited budget on something like that.
Yeah, and and Bill's right, if we used probably a QR code website where it was more business oriented, town oriented, it would track that stuff, but then there's a price to pay for that. It's probably not huge, but then again, money is money.
so this would be something that I think Rena, because with community outreach, which is what she does, economic development and community outreach. So Rena's like the one who would be able to get funding or money or wherever these QR codes could go, because they could really go anywhere. So it's cool. It's a cool tool to have that, to use on our trails. So that'll be something fun to kind of work on. And so Pam, do you want to go next to the status of the sustainable Trumbull?
Sure. So as you mentioned, we did earn silver certification. Sustainable Trumbull team was successful in getting the 400 points we needed. And we were awarded silver in November, which is great. Now there's really no difference between silver and bronze in terms of what you get, but it's nice to be silver. There are fewer towns in the state that are silver. And then we met, as you mentioned, with Vicki last Wednesday to present our top line initiatives and goals for the coming year or two. We're going to have to recertify, I think it's in 3 years if we want to keep our status. And we're not just going to wait around. We've got lots of big things we want to work on. And some of the things that we were able to get points for were things that the town had already put in place and things that we built. So some of the bigger things that we put to Vicki, as you mentioned, we want to work on the tree plan. It's already drafted. Mel, you worked on it several years ago. It was never executed. We want to push that forward, and it was great to see that she was receptive. I pushed my composting wish again. 35% of what we throw in the trash is organic waste and could be composted. And it's not enough to rely on people to look for private compost collection or to do it in their yard. It's not that simple. So it'd be great if we could have it at the town transfer station. The state is really behind getting people to do organic waste management in a proactive way. And they're putting a lot of resources. Look on DEEP's website. There's a ton of information about composting. Other things that we talked about, energy efficiency with electrical EV chargers around town. I know that one of our team members, Mari, is working with Rena on that. We talked about enhanced recycling, ban on single-use plastics around town, and cut out cutlery initiatives were not as well received by Vicki, just because restaurants and small businesses around town have had a tough couple of years. But that shouldn't stop us from telling people, you know, if you go to a restaurant, tell them you don't need the plastic forks. So much of that ends up in the trash. Mari and I also had a meeting with a company called Big Belly. Perhaps you've been to Short Beach or on Paradise Green in Stratford and you've seen those bins. They're called Big Belly, and they're solar powered compacting bins. They're very efficient, and they send a signal out to the sanitation department about when they're going to be full. So no one has to go there and just check them. So it really saves them money. They love them. They have 80 in town and they're going to expand.
So cool.
It's
I think
really
they're really
cool. Yeah, so we're hoping that I forwarded the information to Vicki to present to George and to Dimitri. It would be great to have more bins at more parks to encourage people to do the right thing. So you'd have a trash one, you'd have a recycling one. Park and ride. I mean, I can't tell you how many times the team has gone to the park and rides, especially on Park Street, and cleaned up that parking lot. So we're looking for ways to remind people to do the right thing. And as you mentioned, the tree replacement plan of the Riparian Ordinance, but also, Mel, you did a great job getting the gentleman from Westport to come on and speak to us, a group of us, about his community garden in Westport. And it was great to hear that not only was Vicki interested in taking our property at the Historical Society and doing more with that, but Dimitri was interested as well. And if we can adapt that plan, that beautiful plan that they have in Westport that works almost autonomously with a lot of work, but it works away from the towns so much, it would be a miracle. We've got so much wasted space there, and there's so much more that could be done. If you haven't gone to the Westport Community Garden website or even driven past it, the place is amazing. And it's really run by the people who garden there. So those are things, just the top line things that we spoke about, and hopefully we'll be able to achieve this year.
That's great. Thank you, Pam. And, you know, I really, it's just kind of interesting to watch we talked about the community garden last summer. I think we were thinking about what we could do there and put raised beds in there so handicapped people could plant vegetables there. And there was like nothing that was just kind of getting the attention of, Dimitri or Vicky, or they were just, it was lagging. But this, to see a model like Westport's community garden, and I know people will think, oh, Westport has a lot of money. And so this is not the town driving the Westport Community Gardens. It is driven by people. There's like one man who's been the head of it for 17 years. He's a volunteer, he's a resident, and he's just dynamic. So he did a little presentation for a couple of us. And I've been there at the gardens a couple of times. It's beautiful. And I think, once the weather starts getting nicer and the gardens open up there, it'll just be great to go over there and have a field trip and see. I don't know if all of you, have you all been to the Abraham Nichols Park? There's where the community gardens are. It's kind of a small, there's a couple of plots there. I'd say 4 by 5, maybe, not fenced in. But if you took that and multiplied it by like 4 and fenced the whole thing in with, major fencing, with a gate, with a lock on it, where people can just go in and there's real guidelines and requirements for the people that garden in those plots. And some of them are just flowers. Some of them are vegetables. Some people just set up like little arbors there with lights and go there and have a glass of wine or something. And, and I used to think, well, we've got like a lot of big backyards here in Trumbull. Why would people want to have a community garden like that? And once I went to this Westport one and I saw all the people coming, it's a way for the community to come together, really. It's like you just go to one place, it's not your backyard, and you talk about the vegetables, and there's opportunities to share with food banks and a lot of really great chances to just kind of bring the community together. And I think it would really work well in Trumbull. A lot of people don't even know we have community garden.
I'm a gardener, and until I was on Sustainable Trumbull, I had no idea that space was there. And yeah, I have a small vegetable garden here, but I would love to expand. And I would love to have a place to go that isn't Starbucks. And I don't even go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
No, but really, not to be flip, but when there was a Pinkberry down here in Trumbull Center, people were standing on the sidewalk, there's nowhere to go. And we had talked about also taking the community garden idea and maybe putting founders plots there for native seed bank.
Yes.
Giving some of the vegetables to churches for poor. So I think there's a lot of things that we could do that just aren't about, making your own garden bed. It can really be a community center. And they've got those barns there. They've got a greenhouse. If we could help raise funds to redo the greenhouse, amazing space.
Yeah,
so,
really nice. I'm actually gonna, while I have you on, I'll share my screen just to show you 1 or 2 pictures. This is the website.
I used to have a plot at the community garden, and there are a lot of, it's not, at least it wasn't particularly friendly or enticing place to be.
Yeah. It's true. It was like, you get in and get out. That's it. But I mean, this is just all the people that I just want to get kind of an aerial, but this is what some people do. They make like, this is their plot. I mean, this is just so cool. And there's like a center point in the garden that's like a meeting space. But a lot of activities, a lot of people. I want to get to the aerial shot of, so that's the gate. So it's completely fenced in, and there's to keep the deer out because they have major deer problems, just like we do. But it's quite large. It's a very expansive, and this is Lou Weinberg, who's the guy that's been running it for 17 years. He's a teacher. But let me see if I can get the aerial shot. They took a drone pic, but I mean, look at that. It's a little different.
Wow.
And this is all done by residents. The town really, other than owning the property and providing the water, the town has nothing to do with this. This is all community.
the town put up the fence, but they got a grant. And they put the water in, but I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
What size are the plots?
There's a bocce court. Oh, there's a variety of sizes. There's really big ones, there's really small ones. I don't know the actual measurements. I don't remember. They have bands. People come and play music like on Friday nights or Saturday nights. Why can't I get the aerial shot of this?
Well, what they do, how they get people invested, not only are people of course, they're interested in gardening, but they make them pay a deposit up front. So it's impossible for them to just leave it and let it go to ruin. And the incentive is to finish what you started and leave your garden space in good standing for the next year. So
Yeah.
and they make a little profit. They have money in the bank to do things there. If they want to have a party or if they want to put up a new fence or whatever it is, they've got 20 grand in the bank or something like that.
Right, they're very, and they enforce it. They're not waiting for the town to enforce anything. There's kind of one of the,
Yep.
you know,
And each gardener, each person with a plot has to give 3 hours a year to help either, move mulch around or any projects they have to do. So they have to do their community hours or they're not going to be part of it anymore.
yeah,
Great.
they
Brilliant.
take it away. They actually said they had this one fairly wealthy guy who came in and got a bunch of plots and had some, planted an awful lot of stuff and brought professional landscapers in to plant everything. Oh, here it is. And he just didn't
Wow.
come and do his community service. And so they kicked him out. He didn't care. He was a millionaire. Guidelines were, you have to do your community service. Yeah, so this is all completely fenced in, this whole thing. So this is
Wow.
town property over here where at the foot, this is school. It's an elementary school is, at the bottom of the picture. But completely fenced in. Here's the gate that you come in. There's a code, combination code. But I mean, look at this thing. They have composting back here. This is that central art like where they have bocce cord and the arbor is. But yeah, it's really an incredible like center of the community. And if you've been to Abraham Nichols Park, we have this kind of space. There's no question about, ours is probably like this big. We have this space there that's only cut lawn. That's it. So
What a great place to spread the word about the pollinator pathway, about composting. I mean, beyond the gardening. So to
yeah.
me, it checks a lot of boxes.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is something fun. This is something fun. We're not telling people you can't do this, you can't do that. Don't, this is like, get the community together for a cause. And I think after COVID, people are going to be really wanting to be around other people. And apparently, according to Vicky, she has had conversations with Dimitri about, expanding the community gardens. So we'll bring Dimitri over there for for a tour, because he would see this and it would be less work for his group, his crew, because right now he uses his crew to come in and clean everything at the end of the year and prepare the soil at the beginning of the year. And I think it's ridiculous because people leave a mess in their gardens at the end of the year. They really leave a mess. And they're not penalized or anything. So anyway, this is just kind of, this popped up because I was doing it in the exterior. We're going to be removing invasives and planting some native trees along the outside for Aspetuck. This is in Westport. So I was just blown away when I went here. I was like, where's this thing been all my life? I've never heard about it. But so we could do this. I really think that we could do this. And I think it'll be something fun for us to work with Sustainable CT on, like as a team. I think it would be great.
I wonder in Westport who paid for the fence. I wonder who did the grant money for to put the fence. I wonder.
It was part grant, part town.
Hmm.
So would our town be willing to pay for the fence?
Well, that's TBD. I think, we sent information over to Dimitri via Vicky's team.
Mhm.
And I don't know what our next steps are. I don't remember who's following up with Dimitri directly or if we're waiting to hear back from him. But, the town's he's already sending trucks over there to dig up the plots and take down the fences that people put up on their own little things. So they're already doing work there. They're spending that money.
Mhm. And you know, the other thing about that site is, I mean, I encourage you to kind of go there and just walk around, because there's a barn that they restored, that Public Works restored. There's another barn there that was dismantled on a different location and moved to that location, and it's beautiful. It's like a 2-story barn that should be used for wine tastings and art shows, and there's facilities there that are going unused.
It's funny you say that, because I used to go there twice a week to take care of my plot, and I had no idea any of that was there.
Oh,
Because I would just drive in, do my thing, and then leave.
And there's a greenhouse too. There's a greenhouse that needs to be restored, a glass greenhouse. Because it was like the original house with the Historic Society is, and then there's the barn and the greenhouse. And then Dimitri moved in, I'm sure at great expense to the Historical Society, moved that new barn in the front. It's beautiful. The downstairs is all brick. It's never opened for the public to go in. And I think that they just want to start using this more. So this garden would definitely bring more people in. So
as part of Sustainable Trumbull, as a sustainable town, we can ask for matching grant monies if we crowdfund the rest. So if we have a sustainable plan we want to achieve and we do a GoFundMe or we do some sort of Patreon or whatever platform Sustainable CT asks us to do, and I forget which one it is. Let's just say we raise $2,000. We could ask for matching funds from Sustainable CT. And I think the max, it was either 5,000. He said if you get them earlier in the year, it's 7,500. So it's meaningful money.
yeah.
yeah, so be good. I mean, this is, I think this would be fun. I think this would be fun.
And this town has so much history to it that I haven't got a clue. Every other month I hear about something new. Historical might have some large artifacts that, if they're not there already, they could be, part of the grounds. Just instill interest, in what Trumbull has for 200-year history. It's really amazing, what's going on here.
Mhm. Yeah, and you know what, the other thing, Richard, that I think Pam, you brought it up. It's right. This is right near where the farmers market is, because the farmers market is right there in Nichols now.
Yeah, and that farmers market team this past year, I think they did a great job. They worked really hard to expand it, and it was always crowded, except on like really rainy days. There were a lot of people going there, so
Yeah.
they moved it, and I think they did the right thing where they moved it.
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of opportunity. So it'll be fun. So keep a star next to that community gardens. I think it will be definitely on our radar for the spring. So I kind of already talked about the goals and successes with the ordinances and the tree replacement. We're going to have to do a little deeper dive into those things. And so this would be a good point for people to, take on one of these ordinances and just give it a flavor for Trumbull. So like the native plant ordinance is pretty much written, but I really want to take the plant list that's on our website that Pam brought up, giving planning and zoning and inland wetland, who's going to see this ordinance, top 5 or top 10 trees, top 10 shrubs that are native, top 10. They're not going to go through a 10-page list.
Right.
They're just not gonna. The one from the state is like 20 pages. I don't even want to look at the 20-page one. I want to see the keystone species. I want to see the top trees for the developers to put in. And that's not ginkgo. Those are we need native trees. And so that'll be, if anybody wants to do that, who has a special interest in kind of.
Well, the page that's on Sustainable's Land Stewardship Pollinator Pathway page has the keystone plants. Is that need to be expanded, or does that need to be contracted?
I think the one on the pollinator pathway one, I think is fine. If we can keep it and just have them go to like the top 5 or 10, which is like oak, willow, birch. Yeah, just to kind of look, because it has the number next to it of the larval, it's a larval host. So the number of butterfly species and moth species that use those as larval hosts. So, yeah, I think we kind of use what's already out there. And if we can give them something visual that has the picture next to it, which we
Right.
already have, it would be much easier and it would be pretty.
Oh, I can do that.
I think along with that, the picture is great, because then somebody who doesn't know much about plants, which I'm one of those people, is you can see what it looks like. And then we could have like the characteristics, like it grows, X feet a year or whatever, how big this thing grows. These are metrics which aren't, too detailed, and roughly how big do these plants, get in width. Just so, people who don't know much, but can easily use that chart to get a rough idea. Are they big? Are they small? And I think that would really help, because if we could make it easy for them to pick the trees, you have a great idea. I've seen a list of many pages and it's totally overwhelming. But if you pick a small number that's going to work in 80% of the time, then I think there's a good chance people will actually use it. If it's cheap for them, they don't need to hire a landscape architect, $500 an hour to pick these out for them.
I think that's a good point. Like I bought so many plugs of mountain mint and now my whole garden is full of mountain mint. But so I think if you put, not only this will grow, but it will spread, and here's, I think that's putting the characteristics and just what to expect when you put it in your yard is, how much sun, all that stuff is important to have with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be, easy. So Pam, yeah, if you want to just work on that, I think it will.
Easy peasy.
So, because you have the one that you did, well, this is kind of like the one that we have. See, it's just like top list, and that's the bloom time through the season.
Yep.
So this has already been done, and these are state of Connecticut. They've already been, the work's been done. We just need to feed it in a simple manner to our land use boards. And so if we can be simple, and it's not going to be a lot of work for the developers because they're hiring landscape architects anyway. But these landscape architects, most of them don't know about natives. So we're giving them the list, the planting list.
I think would also help homeowners who don't know much about it, maybe they're in a regulated zone, or maybe they just have an interest, in planting better things. And so if it's an easy list for them to understand, and they can pick it out and go to, maybe like, white birch or some of the native, plant suppliers, it's easier than for people to buy these things.
Mm-hmm.
So beyond Wakeman's, it would be great if, the local garden centers would make more of a statement about natives. But even at Wakeman's, he's got barberry. I mean, he's got stuff. So, they're going to plant it anyway. But that's, to me,
Mm-hmm.
it would be great if Benedict's had more of a native presence. They have a little area outside the greenhouse. So, I think they're going to catch on, because I think it's catching on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So, so then the next one again is the Riparian Protection Ordinance. That's something that, Monroe kind of drafted one, and there's a couple of examples. But if we can, I'd really like to have an ordinance that's just shrunk down to one page. We don't need something that's 4 pages long. I mean, just very, very simple. So maybe if there's, now I think Mary Isaac is on the meeting tonight. So this would have, these would have to go, I'm not sure they'd even have to go to town council, but they'd have to go to planning and zoning. So this might be a lot simpler than we think. So does anybody have any interest in helping to draft our own town ordinance? We can base it on the one that Monroe drafted, and add some more specific things to it, like the steep slope restriction, the clear cutting restriction. And this ordinance would fit together with the native plant ordinance because we're going to be recommending replanting of buffers with natives as well. So if anybody has any interest in that, I always have it open here, so I'm always kind of working on it. So we can, I can come up with like a sample one and then we can work on it from there if you want. Let's do
I'm
that.
happy to do it.
Oh, you want to, yeah,
Yeah.
you want to do it? Okay.
Sure, yeah. It seems a Google search is plenty of information available, and especially if Monroe has already taken a stab at a document, then I'm happy to
Okay.
create something
Cool.
short, simple, colorful, easy.
Yeah. And it might be worthwhile to, if you want, reach out to like Tony Silber, he's on both inland wetland and planning and zoning. And he's actually a writer. So and he's very open to these things. He has joined in when we've had some of these lectures. Tony Silber has been on them. So he knows about this law. So it'd be kind of fun. I think it would make it easier if you want to work together and
Yeah,
email
I-
Tony Silver and see if he wants to jump in.
I'll do that before I create anything, because he may have some guidelines on what he's looking for and what he's willing to adopt.
Yeah.
So all to say is happy to connect with
Okay, great.
Tony first.
Yeah,
And
and
the
Matt, I'd
last
be,
name is Silber, S-I-L-B-E-R?
Silber. Yeah.
Okay, Tony Silber. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
and Matt, if you'd like somebody else just to be a proofreader or anything, as a geologist, I'd be happy to, have a small part in just reviewing things if you'd like.
All right. Thanks, Richard. I will definitely do that, Richard. Okay. Thank
So
you.
the tree replacement initiative, I think this is something that, as Pam said, it's kind of written, it has to be buttoned up, but our focus is really going to be on, replanting in the town. And I really feel like it's important for us to do the town survey first. To find out, and this is why wording a survey is so important, and Sarah is so good at this. We need to get information, not just yes or no answers from people, but more information like, are they concerned about the trees that are coming down the street trees? Or are they concerned about new development where the trees are coming down? Would they like to see trees replanted along our streets in Trumbull? Somehow we can take the temperature of the town to see if this is something that they're interested in. And if we're lucky, the results of the survey will come back with like majority of people are like, yes, give me my trees. I want more trees. And then that would help to give us so if we could so that's why I'll just skip right to the next thing, which is the town survey on sustainability. And I'd just like to begin to talk about that, because now that we've kind of moved it up and we'd like to get that done.
Hey, Mary Ellen. Hi,
Vicky.
it's Vicky. Hi. I don't mean to
Vicky.
interrupt you, but I'm here and I have to, I have another meeting I have to get to.
Okay.
So can I just interrupt you and
Yes.
swear in if you don't mind?
We've
Sorry.
got Pam and Matt here, so you can go right ahead.
Yeah, that's great. So I can actually, because your terms are the same, I can swear both of you in at the same time to save time. So it's all about conservation, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to just raise your right hands for me. You do solemnly swear that you'll support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Connecticut and the Charter of the Town of Trumbull, so long as you remain a citizen thereof, and that you will faithfully discharge according to law the duties of member of the Conservation Commission for the term extending from December 6, 2021 through December 4th, 2023, to the best of your ability, so help you God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Okay, so now you're both official. And don't you feel better now?
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you,
How-
Vicky.
How do the
Wait till I
rest
tell
of
my
you feel?
kids.
The best. We all feel good.
Okay. Okay, good. So I will have those stamped in at the town clerk's office and we'll send you a copy.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
great.
thank you all.
Thanks for your time.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for coming in, Vicky. I appreciate it.
Anytime.
Hi,
Stay
Vicky.
well, everybody.
All right, bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See how easy that was? She didn't even have to drive to our meetings. Just
Yeah.
so Sarah, if you want to go ahead and just kind of talk a bit about the survey, I'd really love to get our commission working on this.
Yeah, sure. So I did a draft
Yeah.
that I sent just a couple hours ago, and I'll share it in a moment. But some things to consider are, Mary Ellen, you said, with luck, we'll get that people are, ecstatic about trees. And some of it is luck, but some of it is how you design the survey. So we'll certainly work on that. The thing that's I was thinking about as I was putting this together is we want to know we certainly want to know what we're trying to learn. And so, you can probably get, if you're gonna have a very short survey, you can really only get a couple, big things out of it. You're not going to get a ton of detail. So if we know what goals we want to support, it sounds like we have, trees and, I sort of noted trees and, maybe the garden or land use as being the main goals. The other thing I think that would make it a little bit more useful is a slightly broader context. And I don't know if it makes sense to have someone from Sustainable Trumbull work together. We work together. And I don't know if there's a third organization, but the more organizations you get involved, you get a little bit more breadth, which makes the people who are taking it feel like it's not very one-sided or focused or whatever, too narrow in scope. And you just get more people to take it, because the more organizations that are sending it out, that reach out to, the more people they touch and you get responses on. So, I don't know if you want to go back to Sustainable Trumbull and see if there's a person who would like to work with us on it. I don't know if there's another organization beyond that that we should include as a partner.
I think definitely Sustainable Trumbull. So we've got, Pam and Richard are both on that. And then we've got Mary Isaac, who's on town council, who's on tonight. She's
Okay.
on. It's a really powerful, energetic team, I have to say. And it would be great to work with them. It would be a lot of fun. I think we get, and the beauty of the Sustainable CT initiative is there's 9 categories of sustainability within a town that towns are rated for. So maybe having each one of, there's things in there like, electric vehicles or, energy conservation or whatever.
Mhm.
So it could be like very much a sustainability survey.
So I'll share my screen and we'll go to that. So I wanted to start with one broader question, and so that it's not, so that we can say, the thing I like, Mary Ellen, about the one that you sent from wherever it was up in Maine,
Yeah.
the power of that one was being able to say people care about conservation as much as they care about any other issue in town.
Yes.
And it was a pretty broad scope of issues. I put in these, and I would obviously this is just a draft, would need a lot of work to get the questions crafted well and all the right answer options. But we're just trying to give you a sense that this kind of starts broad with the idea of understanding. See, I didn't even put all the conservation stuff in there. So, and then it goes more deeply into the sustainability or the natural. So here, more detailed items. And this is a place where I was thinking quality of water, people say that the quality of water really matters. That's how we can use that to support steep slope ordinance or other riparian buffers. The abundant trees as a way to support tree replacement, or 1,000 trees or whatever. Then this is what people care about, and then really the action behind it. So people, if they are going to these places, because we don't really know, we have no idea what % of people who live in the town actually go to any of the parks, right? We know which ones are more popular or less popular, but to actually have numbers behind people who are going to various places. And some of this also is not just about proving that people use these and the community garden I put in, but also where could we get our messaging across, which is why I put things like the library and town hall in.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Then bringing it home, what do they do in their own home? And then, maybe there would be a follow-up question that is, what would you like to learn more about, if there's space for that, so we can get an idea of what people are doing today and where they should go next.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
The next question, what concerns do you have about what you see around town? Again, this is support for this kind of approach is what's important to you, but in the other direction, which is, if you don't get what you want with people saying, yes, trees matter to me in an earlier question, you get another opportunity for people to say, trees matter to me, but from the opposite direction. Does that make sense? If we,
Oh, look at
Yeah.
this. This is good.
if we have,
There's so much thought in this. This is great.
See? She knows how to do surveys, man.
I know.
if there are specific things that you really want to have data to support, you only get one chance to put this survey out, so you need to attack that topic in a couple of different ways, and at least one of them should come through for you. Here's why I say it's not really luck. Maybe there's one that, and I haven't really thought about the order of these yet, but this is like the call to action of, if we have limited time, limited resources, limited amount that we can actually go after, which, let the people tell us how to prioritize them. This next question is really just about how can it's, and maybe we already know this well enough about how we would disseminate information, whether that's pamphlets that we've talked about, because I was thinking specifically about putting together pamphlets, but also sharing information in general. How do we reach people? Right, so a couple of these questions are about how to reach people in order to do that level of education. And then, just as you were talking earlier, I added these two ideas. If these are two focus areas, tree replacement or 1,000 trees and the community garden, you could literally put together 1 or 2 sentences introducing the concept, and then just asking people on a 1 to 5 scale, how much does that interest you? And again, that's just support to be able to go back to Dimitri or Vicky or whoever holds the purse strings and say, 90% of the people, once they were introduced to the idea of the tree replacement or the community garden, got very excited about it.
Mm.
Yeah.
This is interesting. It's an art and a science behind.
Oh,
how you
yeah.
design
You
these
got to know
things.
what you want, and then you use the science to get there.
So the one thing.
This side keeps being put up in front of me as I've been talking. I think it'd be nice if somebody said, in hearing distance of my child, that that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
Sarah, what about, and again, I can't wait for your yes or no on this one, because you're so deep into this. So this is, as I understand, a ranking of interests. What are you interested in? And we could guide people in certain directions. You've been clear on that. Can we get some information on what they're willing to spend? So in terms of contributing, like a willingness to pay, like, okay, that's great that you're ranking 1 through 5, but what if you had to spend $5? Would you still care about these initiatives and be a part of that?
Those are really good. It's a really good question. It is very, very difficult to get at willingness to pay.
Okay.
It really is. It's something I think that you would want to get. It's a little bit backwards than how Mary Ellen's talked about the survey we did with the Aspetuck Land Trust. We did these small focus groups, talk to people, and then wrote and fielded a survey, because we first needed to learn enough to write the survey. In this case, I think we know enough about what we want to achieve to write the survey.
Mhm.
And then once we get a sense of where are people most interested, then given the, the networks, even just the people on this call have, we could put together a couple of groups, have some informal conversations, and that's how you can get a better sense really of willingness to pay. Because my experience with surveys is you just get wild range and wildly inaccurate results. People are very not good at telling you what sounds like a good idea when you're taking a survey, when it actually comes to paying may not be. And it does take a more nuanced conversation. I think that we have time for in a survey like this.
Yeah, I think this is a good length. I get these surveys, web surveys. And after about the fifth or sixth question or eighth question, I say, enough, you've taken enough of my time. I think this is a good, is a good length.
Yeah,
Roughly.
long, but yeah.
And I think I would just, a couple of, like under, where do you visit the Historical Society? If ever you haven't been there, I've only been there a couple of times, but it's kind of a cool place. So I maybe would add that, especially, since community garden could, is kind of by there. And then under what would be, or more information about maybe environmentally friendly lawn care is sort of like it's a common way to say some of these things, we've been talking about.
Yeah, there's definitely, was really just supposed to be a rough starting to give you an idea of what it could look like. There's
It's
a
great. I
little
think
bit
it's
of
great.
crafting that'll need to happen in order to
Yeah.
get all the right
Great.
scope, but those are good additions.
I have a
We-
question
we-
about timing. I know there's nothing we could do about it, but the town was just, everybody got a reassessment on their home. And my husband's on a couple of the Trumble's Facebook sites that I avoid. But there, people were complaining about the assessment and my taxes are going to go up and everybody's really angry. So is there a sensitivity to timing with something like this? Would someone who's not interested in conservation per se, but peripherally so, look at it and go, well, what's it going to cost me? Do you think about that at all when you do a survey, or is it not worth it? Just put it out there.
I think you just put it out there because I think there's always something.
Yeah. And being as winter,
And I understand that people are, I have no Facebook, and I'm not on Facebook for kind of that reason, but I'm not sure what I'm hoping people will have an idea of how we would disseminate this. I know I took the pool survey that came out. I don't even remember how I found out about it, but we would certainly want to probably stay away from, if there are platforms that are more angry, you probably don't want to be on those.
yeah.
They all?
I don't know. I'm not on any of them. I just get the emails from the town, which they're all very flat.
I mean, there could even be on our homepage. Bill, what would it take as one vehicle to distribute this is just to have a link right on the town homepage where with someone visible, that would take it to the survey and they could fill it in line.
I don't know how many people go to the town website.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mel, Janet has her hand raised.
Yes, I was just about to ask if you wanted her to come in. I'll bring her.
Yes, look at that little hand there, Janet. Come on in. There she is. You may speak.
Okay, thanks for letting me chime in. I don't know if you all remember that once upon a time, the Community Facilities Building Committee, Community Facilities Building Committee and the Aquatics Facilities Building Committee were working together, on finding a pool, a new facility for the town. And they worked with a professional survey company to develop a community survey. I don't know if there's any way to get access to that as a model for how surveys should be done on, they were going to sample every household. That's not a sample. They were going to send this survey out to every.
Population.
every household in town. And I'm just wondering if there's a way to use that, if they did it and never used it. I don't know if they still intend to use it, depending on what's going to be happening with, a new proposal that's, going to be coming up. But that was point number one. And then point number two is, my background is in surveys in healthcare, and I would be a little concerned. I get Sarah's point about wanting to approach sensitive issues from different angles so that you can confirm consistency, for example. But I would be a little worried about being too directional and biased, because just judging from the community that I live in, you can talk about trees, but I love trees, but I don't love them on my property. So it's a nuanced issue.
Yeah, I mean, that's an important point. All of these issues are nuanced issues, and we're trying to write a survey that's 10 questions or less and will take 6 minutes or less to take. And so it is very difficult to, unfortunately, do both of those things. I do have a history in writing. I mean, I have had my last job, I spent 6 years writing surveys. So, but they were long, nuanced surveys. And even then it's very difficult to walk that line. So I appreciate what you're saying, but we may just have to be a little bit more blunt force. But it's, that's a good point.
So I'm actually going to share my screen and show you the survey that Sarah did for us at the Aspetuck Land Trust. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was only 6 questions, just as she said. So this is not what the survey looked like. This is the results. And so she was able to glean, I think we had this went out to just members of the land trust. And we had, if I recall, over 400 responses to this. So, what features do you have on your property? That's kind of like a, big general question. But here, Sarah, I'll let you kind of talk about how you did this survey.
Wow, I have not thought about this in a very long time.
Okay.
So yeah, we had this handful of questions, and we wanted to know, kind of similar to how I guess I thought about this, is we first got a sense of what do you have, so that we could then ask questions about, first of all, it puts people in a mind frame. They're already thinking about their property. They're thinking about natural things that matter to them. You're already getting, sunshines and butterflies in their head, and the sense of ownership of what they have. So they're in a positive mood at this point. But then we're able to see, by asking a question like this, we're able to see, and I can't remember if we do, we're able to see if people who have a large lawn answer other questions differently than people who like their lawn, people who have like to look at the butterflies and the birds. Also, I should point out that when we wrote this survey, there were some very specific goals. One of them, if you can go back just one of the goals was really to help to understand where people were in terms of what they do for their lawn care, and then get the information we needed to help move them towards more sustainable practices, less fertilizer, whatever the things were, which we'll probably see in a moment.
Yeah. Do you, your yard service, use organic, natural, or conventional pesticides? So we were surprised, kind of at the results, and
it was a biased group, of course. I mean,
Yes.
people, and we're going to see the same thing. The people who choose to take a survey on sustainability and conservation are people who are already engaged in that topic. So you are just like you see here. I mean, out in the land area that this covers, more than 7%. This is not a distribution that represents the population. Right. This is not population. This is a sample.
What would you like to someday what?
Yeah, right. Because we want to see, where are you now and where do you want to get to? I want to get to having more natives. I want to get to having less grass. I want to get to having more flowers. And then I believe there's another question that's going to come up is like, how can we help you get there?
Yep.
Right. So what are the barriers? I don't want to spend the money. I don't know what to do. And so this is a great story because the Aspetuck Land Trust is an organization that wants to educate people. So what we're hearing is people want to do something better, but they just don't know how. Right. And so, for half of the people who want to make changes, they don't know how. And so.
And then what would inspire you to make these changes?
Now, what specifically do you need to learn? They need to learn how to do it correctly. They need to know what birds or wildlife they can get. They just don't want to be told what to do. Right. And so
I love that one.
Yeah.
Tell me what you want, I'll do it.
a lot of people just, I'll do it, just tell me what to do.
And this was interesting, 0% knowing I'm creating healthy spaces for my children and pets. No, that wouldn't inspire me. No, I
Because-
can track bees. No, that's not it.
But it's because there are exactly 0 people who are taking this survey who don't already understand that it's good for their children and pets.
Yeah, right. Right. And then come the
So what
final
can we do to help?
question. What can we do to help? So this survey was done in 2019, and what the results did was inform the landowner engagement initiative, which was my job. So this gave me my tasks. People are willing to do this stuff. They just don't know how. So
And it's like what we talked about earlier with the plant list. You just have to make it easy, or with the regulations, just make it, pictures and a few words. That's
Yeah.
all people need and want.
well, the cool thing that Sarah did here was that she was able to break it down into the 4-town area, because there's 4 towns in the Aspetuck Land Trust. So we were able to see, with the same questions, differences within the towns. So Westport was more likely to have a lawn service. Easton was less likely to have a lawn service. There's more open space and more farms. Fairfield residents are more likely to use organic. Although most towns still like a mix. So it was just very interesting to see how she was able to sort through the results by town, which, weren't too many major differences. It was just kind of, it was interesting.
Yeah, and then you can slice and dice it lots of different ways. This is obviously more of an internal document, but we can pull out the handful of numbers that you need when you're going to the Historical Society to talk about the garden, or, go to Dimitri for support on an initiative, or whoever the audience is, we can pick out the numbers that we need. Which is why you want to start the whole process with really understanding what are the 2 or 3 main things that you want to learn, so that you are really focused, so it can be a short, simple survey.
Mhm.
Now for Aspetuck, Sarah, how did you submit the survey? Was it a mailing or was it electronic or combination of both?
It was email. So they have the emails of all of their, if you go to their website and you get a map, for example, you have to put in an email, or when you become a member, you put in an email. So they emailed it to everybody. So that's not a luxury that we have. And frankly, I don't know that I would want to mail it, because then you're asking people, if you mail it to people, you're asking people to fill it out and put a stamp on it. I don't know.
Wait, can we
Use the mail? I don't know.
It's a bit clunky, but could we give them the printed link? Like if Mary Ellen, we want to send out that pamphlet to all Trumbull citizens, can you include like a link? Again, they'd have to type it into their computer. And I say that because that's reached to theoretically every resident of Trumbull. I'll take that as a maybe.
Oh, so, well, hey, that's a good point. So,
Yeah, you're touching
have asked
everybody
this-
in Trumbull.
in July, right? It's July, I think. I think July is when the tax bills go out to everybody, and that's when
Absolutely.
Vicky sends out her, there's like a flyer that Vicky sends out to every household. And so that could be where the survey link sits.
But then,
Mariana, I
so
thought
out
you
till
had,
July, we can't be
Yeah.
done by June.
Yeah, we can't be
Yeah.
done in June.
sorry, Mariana, I thought you had, I thought there was, you were considering a pamphlet
Yeah,
sending out. Is that separate? Or maybe you were considering
no, but
that in
hey, you know what?
July.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like within that, yeah, anyway.
In that pamphlet, put,
Yeah.
you know, take the survey. Yeah, because we want that pamphlet to, it would be about 14, there's about 14,000 households. So we have the pricing on, you know, the printing costs for the brochure.
But then when we have the money for mailing, to mail it.
Right, so that's the, yeah, so John, do you
No,
know, do you ever,
I-
is there's like, do the printers or there's a direct mail company that would do the mailing?
No, that was a printer, but I'm sure he's got some information on mailing. You want me to talk to him about it?
Yeah, like how, because I know that the town has their town mailing lists, and I don't know if it's like a proprietary list that they have only
Town
one.
has multiple mailing lists that are email lists, and Bill would probably know the answer to this, because you can opt out of the email lists, but then it re-ups you every year or something like that.
Mm.
Is that right? How does that work?
So the town website has, well, we have multiple different ways to do it, but the town website has the ability to have residents have the ability to have an account and subscribe to newsletters and things like that. So email addresses could be pulled from those lists.
Bill, is that something that we could use for this purpose?
I haven't really been following along to the full conversation, but
I mean, basically, it's a survey of that Sarah's working on, you know, basically 8 questions or so. You know, do they like, you know, for example, there's a question here. What concerns you about what you see around town? Too much cutting down trees, too much clear cutting, that sort of thing.
we'd probably have to have some discussions about that. If that survey is sent from the town website, I don't see a problem with that, but I'm not sure if the town would be willing to use those emails in another way.
Yeah. Now, sorry for Aspentuck, did they actually return a paper that you then entered?
No, and that's the other thing is, I was gonna follow up with was not only, you know, if we have a piece of paper, are we asking people to find an envelope and put it in an envelope,
Right.
with the stamp on it and walk to their mailbox. Then if we get all these pieces of paper, then we have to enter them.
Yes.
Yeah, I would say
electronic
stay
is the-
away from the paper.
Yeah. I
Yes,
don't
Stay away
want
from the
paper.
paper.
Because their website said you can do surveys. Which one
Yeah,
did you
can
guys
Survey
use?
Monkey or something
Yeah.
like that. It's free, it's easy.
Yeah,
Sarah, how long is the link that you could put on a sheet of paper that we'd say, go here? Is it something like Survey Monkey 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, right? Or is it
I'm
something?
honestly not sure. That's a great question. There are certainly services where you can, I don't want to, disguise isn't quite the right word, but you can, like Bitly will give you
Yeah.
a shorter thing, but I will have to investigate that. That's a great question.
or you can
Because-
put a link and then a QR code next to it. And the QR code can have any, I believe, any length of URL. It could be 50,000 characters long, but not everybody has a smartphone to scan the QR, but a lot would. So that's, you know, one secondary way to get
I think
people to
we're gonna
get
need,
to it.
I think we're gonna need a lot of vehicles to do this.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
This is a
mean-
more is more situation.
Yeah, because if you have, you know, one Survey Monkey collecting the data, you just need tell people go here. It doesn't matter where they get that from. You know, they can
Mhm.
type it in a piece of paper or, you know, get a link on some website.
TrumbleGreenSurvey.com.
Yeah,
That's
but I think it'd be, you know, I mean, that in the winter is a lot left, but before we know it, it'll be springtime. And so a lot of these things have to do with springtime, growing season. So it'd be kind of fun to get it before then if possible.
Well, especially if we're trying to finish this by June,
Yeah. And Sarah, I mean, I'm sure you could be invited to the next sustainable meeting in, 3.5 weeks.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that.
You
Or,
know, what I'll do is,
We could get it done.
could you just, if you forward me something, just briefly, about a background, a couple lines about your background surveys, then I'll forward to Sustainable and, basically invite you to the next meeting. And then Bill will send you a link, as a participant or whatever it's called.
sure, I mean, the goal really is just to get one person who could represent sustainable
Yeah.
to just be a partner with it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it makes sense to make sure the entire group is on board.
Yeah, I think you're a good focus. There's no reason why you couldn't do that on a sustainable part. I mean, you're a person, it doesn't really matter that you're not on sustainable from my perspective. So I think, email me, then I'll email it to Sustainable and get you invited to the next meeting.
Yeah, because
So
I
I'm gonna share my screen real quick. I just found, I was looking for this. This is an email. This is how I found out about the Parks and Rec survey. So this came to me from recreation@trumbullct.gov because I signed, Bill said, I have an account, I signed up, I get emails. And it was just this thing and it says, we're looking for someone to take the survey. So I took the survey. You click on the link and it takes you, they use, I don't actually even know, they may have done it within Constant Contact, but this is the experience I had when I got it as an email from the town of Trumbull.
oh,
Could you click on that, sir? Just so I'd like to see
is it
something
still
what it looks like.
open? Oh, it is still there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Was
basically,
there-
all that is just a clickable link with a URL. You can put anything you want in that.
Yeah, but to Matt's point, it's not something that we could write in the bottom of a pamphlet and ask them to
Imagine
type that
writing
in.
that
Right.
on your iPhone. Oh, dang, I forgot an 8.
This actually isn't even the pool one. I thought this is the pool one. Huh,
This is
this is
good
a
to
different
see.
one than the pool one.
Yeah, it's
But
just the
it-
right size.
Yeah.
Just the right size, it's simple, but also the lesson is Trumbull emailed this.
Yeah.
I filled that one out, yeah.
So
Yeah, funny, this isn't even the survey I was looking for.
help us help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you gotta have a punchy line if you want people to open it, and then you have to make it look easy if you want people to click on it. There's two
Yeah.
steps. You gotta get them to open it, then you got to get them to click on it, and then you have to get them to finish it. So
And
all
then
two
make it
things matter.
look like it's not a phishing email.
Yeah, I mean, this is covered this is good enough for me, trumbullct.gov.
Yeah.
What we did, which I think we can't do at the town, is offer, if you take this survey, your name goes into a raffle to get like $100 gift certificate for, we had Gilberti's nursery.
Mm.
And one person out of the 400 got that. But I think there's probably some regulations for municipalities that you
Well,
can't.
I was actually going to ask if we could like raffle off a free plot in the garden, but it might actually be free. I don't remember how, I think it was like $10 when I did it.
Oh,
but-
cool. That's a great, that's a great idea. Yeah, so this is fun. See, we're gonna do fun stuff this year. Last year was kind of a dud. This year's gonna be fun. So, we're not
On
gonna.
that note, I'm much more excited about this year, Mary Ellen.
Yeah, me too.
I know we don't talk about these things, but I'm far more excited about this year. I think there's a lot of cool stuff we can do.
Yes, I agree. So we're not going to solve the survey thing, but this is great. Thank you, Sarah, for doing that.
Yeah.
So Sarah, if you could, just hook up with the sustainable team and work on this with them, that would be
Sure.
great.
Will do.
And we'll see what the process is for getting this done. So the last thing on the agenda is Matt to talk about a speaker that Matt jumped in on, was last Saturday. And it was a really dynamic speaker. And I do have to say that our town engineer, Tatiana, Solveni was on there also, and she's really good. I mean, this is the second time I've been on weekend Zoom conferences that she and sometimes another town engineer are on there. This was about water, stormwater management, and the speaker was really kind of a riot. He was really, and so Matt was on there. So I thought that he might be an interesting speaker for us to have for the town. Now, the reason I bring this up also is because I had a talk with Tatiana last week about the the stormwater management issues and the frustration that we're seeing with the land use boards not understanding how critical trees are to manage stormwater and how critical the natural systems are to managing the stormwater. They take all the trees and the natural systems out and they replace them with, gray infrastructure, which costs millions of dollars. So, in talking with Tatiana about, she said, yeah, we really could use, we would be very open to a conversation or a lecture on this topic. She says, if your commission could just write us a little memo saying, we'd like to join forces and listen to a speaker on natural systems for stormwater management or something like that. So I'll let Matt talk because this kind of guy might be the guy because he's a riot. So go ahead, Matt, if you want to.
Sure. Sure. And I was able to find his slide. So that you don't have to see my face share his really good stuff. Where let me share my screen. Okay, you should be able to see my screen. Okay, and I'll maximize this. And I'll do this because I know it's getting late. I'll do this in 2 minutes and try to keep it as fun as possible. So this Boston-based, I may butcher some of this, as you guys know, this is not my background, but we'll call him a water landscape design water specialist in Boston. And this was focused, and it was free, by the way. It was focused on managing stormwater and things that you can do as a homeowner, as a resident, and also larger properties to manage stormwater. And he started really nice in more of like a philosophical way about water, almost like matter. It's never created or destroyed, in that the sweat from a worker on the Great Pyramid, that water is still in the atmosphere somewhere. Maybe you drank it yesterday. So he had a really nice way to pull everybody in before going into how to manage stormwater. And again, I have my screen up, and I love when people make things a little bit more tangible. So one way to manage stormwater is rain barrels, which are the most inexpensive way to do so, also the ugliest. He was not a fan of those, but there is a spectrum between what's beautiful and the cost involved. So rain barrel being one way to do it, and then you can get fancy with underground systems. You can imagine they don't sell these at Home Depot for $50. So this is one way to do it, and then they go into different ways to manage. Was
he opposed to rain barrels because of aesthetics or effectiveness?
Aesthetics.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, most of their aesthetics. They then talked about permeable pavements and the ability for these to, I guess, not absorb, but kind of dissipate the water more broadly than just say a blanket of concrete. And then additional things you could do, like certain types of concrete, alternatives. There's a rain garden, right? Everyone, well, I like to think everyone's familiar with the rain garden, what you can do here. Green roofs. This is a very modern home in the Boston area, which is nice, but this is some money stuff, right? And these are green roofs in bus stations in Boston. And so those are, I think I counted maybe 5 or 6 things that, and here's your speaker here. Oh, where was it? 5 or 6 things you could do to manage stormwater. And as Mary Ellen said, he made it colorful. He made it fun. He had some good facts. It's hard for me to pay attention with what I have going on in my house on a Saturday at 10 a.m., but this was great. So Mary Ellen, all to say is, if this is somebody that you'd like to bring, I'd support it and reach out and whatever we would need to do, because I really like this guy.
That would be great. You know, if there's a, I kind of Googled him, and he's got, you know, a couple of presentations, but I think that if we could ask him to focus a bit more on natural systems. I mean, in talking, it would be great, because it would help to support what we're trying to get the land use folks and the engineers to do in our town, which is, you know, really encourage the use of green infrastructure, and why. And I think as a landscape architect, he certainly would understand the value of trees. So, you know, if you had a green area like that, like I love that porous asphalt versus standard asphalt. I love pictures like that, because you can see he was talking about that, using that. Now, the porous asphalt, for example, is at the Yale New Haven, on Park Avenue, Yale New Haven facility there. That has
Medical,
all
yeah.
porous asphalt. And it's cool. Like, so, you know, we're not mandating this stuff, but some developers will do it. They'll integrate it because it's interesting. So, I don't know. I think he would be a good way to kind of just connect, and we can get the land use boards to join in on the Zoom. It's so easy now to just show up and sit down for an hour and, you know, watch a speaker.
I think,
like this.
yeah, it would be great for homeowners too. I wish I had known about permeable pavement when I was redoing my driveway. And I'm going for my master garden certification, and we had a whole thing on water the first night. And hearing about rain gardens versus rain barrels, I'm like, oh wow, I had no idea that was such an easy thing to do. So I think for homeowners it would be valuable.
Yeah, you know what? That's true. I think you're right. People would like this guy because he really was funny.
Yeah, I think if we could gear it to Trumbull, like, you know, one idea, like when we put a couple additions on, I work with Tatiana, we had to basically capture the runoff from our roof and quote the new driveway section, which wasn't very big, into our rain garden, which is more of an infiltration gallery. The idea is there's two thoughts. Is one is keep the rainfall from going off your property, i.e. it goes into the ground to replenish groundwater. The second thought is if you can't do that, then when it runs off your property, how do you make it so it won't, you know, flood downstream people? And I think, you know, a couple examples in Trumbull are, we have, you know, lakes and rivers, you know, put a barrier between your lawn and then use trees, other purposes, you know, but then there's some, you know, areas where we've channelized the creeks. And what that does is it produces flooding farther downstream. If you let it normally flood a little bit, overflow the banks a bit, you'd have less flooding downstream. So if you could focus, and Tatiana would probably have a, you know, a good idea what some major issues are in flooding, you know, and then have him focus on those.
Hey, Mel and Matt, I hate to throw myself into this part of the calendar already, but we did Earth Week at Sustainable Trumbull last year, and we had virtual events every day.
Oh yeah.
If we were, I mean, I haven't, like I said, I'm not necessarily volunteering for that again, but he'd be a great speaker for an Earth Week soon.
Yeah, for the sustainable. Oh, he would be really good. Yeah, because the public would really, I think residents would like him too.
Especially if he's funny.
Yeah, he's just, and somebody said to me, oh, you heard Trevor Smith, and he spoke, this was for Wild Ones, which is a group in like Lyme, Connecticut that works with native seeds. So it was a lot of master gardeners, very garden oriented. So somebody said, oh, did he curse as much as he usually does? I was like, I don't remember him person. They said, yeah, he's usually has some salty language. You have to
Oh.
rein him in.
I don't notice that ever.
that.
I didn't hear him. No, I
No,
didn't
he
hear him say anything. So somebody must have talked to him. So, but you know, yeah, it's fun to have a fun speaker. So that's a great idea, Pam. I like that. So, so maybe if you think it's a good idea, I think this is an important subject. And it's rare to find a speaker. So I'll see him. I'll reach out to him and ask if he, has a variety of, different talks that he does. But
Now,
this
would that be-
is really good.
Would that be focused to, certain departments in town, at least for this one? Besides sustainable, would this be focused on maybe engineering and zoning, or?
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
zoning could really, use this, and if Tatiana and folks from engineering were there, they could, give some thumbs up perhaps to zoning.
Yeah, we would definitely encourage our the zoning folks and land use boards. I think,
Yeah.
Would town residents also be invited?
yeah, I think it would be great for residents. I agree.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So
Another thought, just quickly, if we don't do it for Earth Week, is that the library is trying to work with Sustainable Trumbull on some initiatives, and they do events. So maybe there's some way to, if you want to do it earlier, you can hook the library up to publicize it and do it together.
yeah. Hey, since it's about green infrastructure, maybe we could do it on St. Patrick's Day or something like that.
Oh,
Probably not a good idea.
Green, no, yeah, we'd have to do it later.
yeah.
Sit
You
down,
know,
get a pint of Guinness and listen to a lecture on green infrastructure.
I'd be happy to make some signs at no charge to put around Trumbull to advertise it also.
Oh, that might be cool.
Yeah. And John, do you ever do QR codes on signs?
I have recently, and I'd be happy to work with you on the ones that you're interested in putting down on the trail, because we have all those kiosks.
Yeah.
And, I'd be happy to work with you on that. I wouldn't charge you to do some of those, and let's work on it together, and I could do some layouts for you and we can show everybody.
Because I was gonna talk to Dimitri and then Parks and maybe Rena and just say, I'd like to do this at, 2 to 4 locations, temporary stick-on type labels on existing kiosks, just so people can try it out. Vicky could try it out, people could try it out, townspeople. And so just kind of get a flavor for it, because we have the content. And historical is really interested, even in some of their artifacts inside the building. You can have a small sign, or you can have a kiosk with, more information. Obviously,
Well,
we need.
We don't even
so-
have to take it out of our budget, so we could do it now as an experiment.
Well, I was thinking of, even if I did it myself, I would just take paper, print the QR, and put some weatherproof clear tape over it. But I'll talk to you about that.
Yeah,
I have 1-inch sticky label, weatherproof, but they're not very big. You can't really see them.
I have a 54-inch digital printer.
Oh, okay. That would work. I'll
Yeah.
talk to you. Maybe I was going to go down a couple of parks where we have kiosks that have and measure the space we have. And then we have 4x4 or foot by foot or whatever it is. And then I'll talk with you about that. And
Yeah,
maybe if you
absolutely.
have time, we go down a couple locations once
Yep.
Parks is okay with it. And just try a couple. Yeah, I appreciate it. That'd be great.
And we could do that, no problem.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Cool. Well, thank you. This was, we went over a lot of stuff and I appreciate it. Our next meeting is February 23rd. We don't really have any, I spoke to Richard Gerard from Inland Wetlands today, and there's no applications for us to review tonight for their meeting. It's going to be old business. So yeah, so we'll see you on the 23rd. I think everybody's got just some little homework to do. So
Can I ask a question first before we
Sure.
adjourn? You had said earlier, that there isn't much land left in Trumbull to develop, but there's obviously redevelopment that can happen.
Yeah.
And then when Matt showed the picture of the porous pavement, it made me think about the Veterans Center. And I just wonder, do we have any conduit to, be involved? There's still, I was just looking at the agenda a moment ago, and there's still, plugging through the, not even to demolition yet, but obviously plans happen early, and, the landscaping getting, whether that's, porous pavement, porous asphalt, whatever it was, make sure they don't have a steep slope, make sure that, they have proper buffer around the pond there, all those things. And we don't want to miss our chance to, I know, Mary Ellen, you've had some contact there, but I just want to make sure we don't forget about it because we haven't discussed it in a while.
That's a great, I'm so glad you brought that up. That's great. I know they were waiting for some grants or some funding before they went forward with it, but that's
Okay.
a great idea because it's a town project and it's in a sensitive watershed area because it's right by the pond.
Yeah, yes,
Um,
yes.
So that's great. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you.
And I'm happy, I'm interested to be involved in that if that becomes something that we can,
Yeah, that would be great. What I'm going to do is send a message to, I know somebody on the building committee. I mean, Ray Baldwin is, but Mary Beth Thornton is on that building committee. So I'll send her a message to see if she can give us an update, and I'll copy you just to make sure that she keeps us in the loop when it's time to talk about these things.
Yeah,
So-
I
No, we
I
met with
accosted Ray
them.
Baldwin in the grocery store one day because I had never met him before, but he looked familiar. And one of their meetings, there was no Zoom link, and so I asked him why not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mel and I actually presented to that building committee about native plantings on the grounds. And I took some pictures and showed them what was there now. And, so I think that they're open. And we also did a little conversation about getting matching funds from Sustainable in order to put those native plantings in. So they're interested.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Pam, I forgot about that. She took all the photos of what's there now. And yeah, so that was great. They actually called us to kind of put our 2 cents in at one of their meetings. So yeah, so thanks for bringing that up. I always forget about that location, but it'll be a great one. We can have meetings there someday when we can meet again.
Yeah.
The building as it's drawn is gorgeous.
I know. It's really, probably if they were going to build a new building, it probably would not be allowed to be built, but they're just there's redevelopment. Yeah, so there's building there already. So yeah, it'd be cool.
Oh, Pam, a quick thought on that native plants. It could be a section on, buffer type plants, specify that. Because buffers can really they can look really nice.
Yeah, we did bring up the riparian border and the reason for it. And there already is a riparian border there of sorts, but not all of it is native.
Yeah, but I'm thinking if we do this native, plants, a simplified list that people might actually look at, if it had a section on, some buffer type plants, low plants that, help absorb the stuff, but to differentiate those from trees. It might help people focus a little bit on what a buffer planting might be, besides a tree.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah. So that could be a demonstration site for people to go there and see what a native riparian buffer looks like. So that'd be great. Does anybody else have any questions, comments, anything? Nope. All right. Very good. Well, thanks everybody for getting on this evening, and I'll see you next month, but I'll keep emailing if anything new and exciting comes up.
Okay.
Keep me in the
Okay,
loop.
sounds good.
And then
All right.
Sarah,
Thank
send me
you.
some briefly. I'll get it off to Sustainable. And
I
John,
will.
you and I will be in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
Thanks,
Great.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks. Have a good night, you guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Happy New Year.